Nick Nickson here, and welcome to our LA Kings alumni Zoom chat today. Hope everyone is doing well and staying healthy as we all obviously look forward to get back to playing. Going to get defensive here today with our guests. Three former Kings defensemen who totaled over 1,700 games with the Kings joining us. Welcome to Wells, Garry Galley, and Mattias Norstrom. Jay, want to start with you. You're the senior member of this group, whether you like it or not. Tell us what you're doing now. Where are you living?
We moved back after a coaching career. We moved back to Paris, my hometown. We've been here we came back in 2001, got back into coaching, then came back again around 2015. We've been here for the last 4 years. We're building a house. And I work for a animal feed place up in Cambridge, just north of Paris, 2 days a week, and nothing too strenuous. And I also plant about 2.5 acres of vegetables, and I'm a busy guy, so I'm running around, building a house, and I say it's crazy. You
say Paris. Let's clarify. This is Paris, Ontario, correct?
Yeah, it's Paris, Ontario, and that's where I was born and raised. So.
And Paris is outside, right near Brantford, Ontario, where the great ones from,
I guess
right?
If I say Brantford, everybody will know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 10 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Garry.
Stay there in Paris. Beautiful up there. Jay, I don't know if you remember. I was up there, and your dad found the boots on the end of the guy's legs. That was a cemetery or something that was next to the farm. And when he was digging, the boots were sticking out of the ground. So that was my remembrance of my trip to Paris.
Yeah. No, there was a little avalanche. He was playing in the there's a cemetery right by our house, and he was playing in the cemetery, and there was a little bit of a gravel avalanche, and out sucked 2 old army boots. So it was it's a civil war kind of, I think, army boots. But anyways, it was kind of cool.
I got to put that on my places to visit now. Garry, how about you? You basically grew up in Ottawa. You're back there, right?
I am. I'm back in Ottawa now. Obviously, was working with Rogers Sportsnet, was covering the games, color commentary, and the season shut down. So I came back home, and I've been back home since. I got to tell you, the house is, the yard is like spick and span. The grass is beautiful. I mean, it's like, I'm a lot like Jay and Matty too. We're doers. We're out there. We got to keep moving all the time. So I'm driving my wife crazy, but the yard looks great. And the pool's clean, and it's nice. We got the kids around a little bit now, so it's nice to see everybody. My daughter and her fiance just bought their first house, so we're going to be moving them in the next couple of days. So yeah, kids are getting older. It's good to be home for an extended period of time, but certainly miss the game. Doing the games and stuff, but that'll come soon enough.
And Matty, born in Stockholm, Sweden, obviously. You're back there in that area at least, right?
Yeah, I'm living about 15 minutes from downtown Stockholm. And I was running a boat dealership for about 4.5 years now. And then around New Year's, I decided to try go back into broadcasting that I'd done before. So I was supposed to cover the NHL for the local network, and then also right now I was supposed to be in Zurich for the World Championships, but everything got canceled there in 2 days. So I went from having a really busy schedule for the spring to doing nothing. Like Garry, I'm fixing up the house, making sure the backyard is staying in good shape.
I was trying to think, Matty, when was that cruise we met on many years ago, before we were even teammates? We were on a cruise together. And I think you were playing with the Rangers. I think I met you for the very first time, and we kind of hit it off, and it was great to be able to get to know you when we became teammates as well. But that was quite a while ago. I'm trying to think if that was in the mid-90s.
I think that was 94. It was right after the Rangers won the cup there, and the veteran guys like Jay, they didn't want to go on those cruises. So the young guy, they said, "Who wants to go?" And I raised my arm right away. So that was,
I get seasick. So I can't even get on a boat without throwing up. So I couldn't go.
Tough as nails, but he can't take a wave.
That's right. Just a little ripple throws me off.
All three of you, obviously, defensemen in your professional careers. I want to know, have you always played defense? When you started out as a kid, how did you come about becoming a defenseman? Start with you, Jay. You were drafted by the Kings in '79, a first-round pick, but what drew you to the position that you played for over 1,000 games at the NHL level?
Well, my dad tells a story. When I retired, he stood up, and I didn't know what he was going to say. But anyways, when I retired, they'd had a little function in Paris here for me, Sports Hall of Fame, and he told a story. He said, I have two older brothers, and they're all finesse players. They scored the goals, they were the MVPs, and then along came Jay, and Jay, he never really handled the puck very much. And the reason why was I didn't even see a puck until I was about 14 years old. Until I could be big enough to knock my brothers on their butt, I never saw a puck. All I could do was run around and hit people. So I decided that I think I would be a better defender than I would be a goal scorer. And so I've always played defense. One year in minor hockey, I tried center, and I liked it, but just too much skating. So I thought, we'll just play defense and be happy to stay at home and take care of my goaltenders.
It worked out pretty well for you, obviously. How about you, Gary?
It's funny because a lot of people still don't call me a defenseman. They come a forward, but and Jay knows and Matty know what I mean by that. But the incredible thing was when I saw Bobby Orr play, and my dad was a huge Bobby Orr fan. I knew that I wanted to be a defenseman. It didn't really matter if I could play forward or not. It was Bobby Orr was a defenseman, so I wanted to be a defenseman, and I wanted to be just like him. And so that's really what really tapped into why I became a defenseman, and the fact that I stuck with it when many a times coaches tried to move me up to the wing, tried to put me in a offensive position because of my skating and puck handling and my offensive skill sets. But I just saw the game so much better from the back moving out. I always felt like I was just well-versed from that spot. And to just tip back to Jay, when I first broke in Los Angeles and Jay was the guy breaking me in and helping me become a player, some of those things might have been true, but it was incredible the transformation that Jay had from just a hard-hitting defenseman, stay-at-home guy. He developed some incredible offensive skills, ran the power play, Jay, I remember for a couple of years under Pat Quinn, and you put up some really good numbers. So I think sometimes we don't really realize that we have these other skill sets that we can bring into play. And seeing Jay do that was incredible, and to see that, the guy that really could do those kind of things. And and for me, it was the opposite. I had got to LA, and they're like, "Okay, we want you to play defense." I was like, "Okay, what is that?" So I had to learn how to play the defensive part of the game, learn it almost in reverse. And of course, Matty was really solid at both ends, and we know that. But it's just your game is always ever changing, and I think that's the one thing. Even in the defenseman and being a defenseman, it's always changing.
Matty, how about you? Were you pigeonholed as a defenseman early on when you started playing as a kid?
For me, it was the other way. It was the lack of skill. The team where I played first organized hockey, I was 6, and that team, they started play a year ahead of me. So when I signed up there, they just put me in the back because that's where I would do the least damage. So actually, that's how it started. I was a poor skater, and they put me in the back, and I started from that and always stayed defense from day one.
All right. Now let's talk about your time in LA. For all three of you, Jay, I mentioned, was a first-round pick by the Kings. Gary was drafted by the Kings when he was at Bowling Green University. And Matty, you were with the Rangers. You were drafted by the Rangers, but then they traded you, and you pretty much then got your foothold on the NHL with the Kings. So just talk about your time as a King, and as you look back on it, what it meant to basically establish yourselves as an NHL player with the Kings. Jay, we'll start with you.
Well, I had, like I said earlier, I had a couple other brothers that were skilled, and my 3-year-old older brother was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens. And but he never made it because they were such a strong team back then. Even their farm team was a strong team. So he kind of got lost in the shuffle. So when I got to my draft year of junior into the NHL, I really wanted to go to an up-and-coming, developing team that would give me a chance. I needed, like Gary mentioned, I needed some time to develop. And I needed a coach and a general manager that would allow me to play and learn as I go. And the more I played, the more I handled the puck, the more I became a better player and better defenseman. And so, starting in LA, if I would have went somewhere else like Philly or Boston or something like that, I might never have had a career that I had because I was able to play. They put us in the first year and they let us grow along with Mark Hardy and a bunch of other players. And so, I was very fortunate to go to LA, and we had some great times. There was a big shift around 79, 80 where they were drafting everybody and keeping them and developing them. And so we formed an awful lot of good friendships in those 5, 6, well, I was there 9 years, but they were coming in and going out. Gaga was there for a while, but we had guys like Jerry Korab, older guys teaching us how to play, and so it was really good. Some of the highlights, obviously, the Miracle in Manchester. You got to mention that, and but I was really excited to see LA win the cup. And I was very proud to be an alumni of the Los Angeles Kings. When they won the cup, I had a big smile on my face, and I know I was lucky enough to win one in New York, and I know the dedication and the hard work that it takes. And when I saw LA do it, not only once but twice, it was just an amazing feeling and a proud feeling. And so, congrats to all those that won one out there.
Gary, you broke in as a King, and you touched on it earlier. When you started your NHL career, Jay was a teammate of yours. And then when you wound up with your second stint with the Kings, Matty was a teammate of yours. So you've got some ties to both of our other guests here today. But your time in LA, maybe what was it like at the start, and then towards the latter stages of your career with the Kings?
Well, a lot of purple at the start. So, I've worn a lot of colors in LA in the years that I was there, but
you're actually lucky. You're actually lucky, Gary, because it was yellow for a while there when I started.
Remember what Pat Quinn said: "It's never yellow; it's gold." You never call a hockey player yellow. But it was, it's funny we remember all these things. But I was coming out of college. The U.S. Olympic team had just won in 1980 the gold medal at the Olympics. It pushed college hockey ahead 10 years. It just catapulted college hockey because those are a bunch of college guys that won a gold medal. And so I found my way to Bowling Green, developed a more offensive style of play, a really aggressive style of play offensively. And then when the Edmonton Oilers started having their run in the 80s, the Smythe division was the run and gun Smythe division. And it just fit my profile of my game so well. Craig Redmond went, I think, in the first round that year. I think I was a fourth-round pick. We came in together. They decided to keep the two of us there, which I think drove Jay and Mark Hardy and a number of the veteran defensemen crazy, Brian Engblom, because we were such a different breed coming in. We didn't have that what we see a lot now with they're pushing the offense all the time. We were kind of like that. So we frustrated some people, but the great thing about it was we were treated so well coming in as young players by the veteran players that when I got towards the end of my career, I did it the same way, and I always felt very lucky with the teammates I had in LA. And the second stint when I went back, I had other places I could have gone. I could have gone for more money other places, but something inside me told me that the first time around I didn't get a chance to really show the organization and the fans and the people there what kind of player that I was, a full entire type of player, a full, having gone through years in the National Hockey League, I just felt like my game had come around full circle, and I wanted to go back to LA. It meant a lot to me, and the fans there are fantastic. The LA Kings have always had fantastic fans, and to see them celebrate a Stanley Cup, was really exciting for my whole family. We were thrilled. My son Blake, who was born in California, is a huge Kings fan. So of course he was stuck to the ceiling. And any chance we get a chance to get down there, we always come down to LA, and the Kings treat us so well. It's a great organization to be a part of. The second stint there, when I had a chance to play with a guy like Matty and Rob Blake and Sean O'Donnell and Glenn Murray and Matt Johnson, Ray Ferraro, Russ Corman, all these guys. I mean, it was a great second run there. I always tell people, I never won a cup. I would have loved to have won a cup, but winning in LA with the group of guys that we had there would have been something really special. And we had some really good players there and really good human beings, and that's what made it a lot of fun playing there.
And Matty, how about yourself? As I mentioned, you were drafted by the Rangers, and then you come over in that big trade, 7 players. You with Ian LaPerriere and Ray Ferraro, and I think it was Nathan Lafayette to go from the Rangers to the Kings. And all of a sudden, you're an NHL regular defenseman when you join LA, right?
Yeah, I mean, I also have a tie with Jay from the time with the Rangers. And I look back at that time, so fortunate to have guys, especially with Jay, Doug Lidster, Kevin Lowe, that, the guys that, the veteran guys that I'm competing for their spot, but those guys treated me the best and really taught me the ropes how to break into the league. But the Rangers at the time there, when I got traded in 96, they're still every year going for that cup. And so for me, that turned into, a great trade for me. Coming down to LA, ending up in the same position with like Jay and Gary, but they got drafted there. I came there, a lot of the big name players were gone with Gretzky, and they were traded, and there was a fresh start. Larry Robinson, the coach, that the year before was a lockout, so he was coaching in Albany. So we played against they call the Albany River Rats a lot. So he got to see me. So I think there were also planned for him when I got to LA that I fitted into what he tried to rebuild in '96. So very fortunate situation to come in as a young player. To see, the Rangers, what it took to go all the way and win a cup. And after that, you thought that, I might have this chance every other year, good group of guys. And then, 14 years later, I never got even close to a Stanley Cup final.
And let's continue on the theme here of LA Kings and teammates, if you will. A player, and I know Jay and I know Matty, and I think for you, Gary, you played for a number of teams. You all played more games for the Kings than any other team in the NHL. Start with you, Jay. 9 years in LA to start your career. Was there a player, as you look back, or even when you were playing with the Kings, that you really admired just for whatever reason?
Yeah. I could probably name 3 or 4 that I admired or studied or watched very closely. But for a defensive defenseman that I was, you need to have a little bit of offensive defenseman as a partner. And when I broke in the league, I was lucky. I had Jerry Korab, and he didn't have a lot of offense, but he was a big statured man. He was a 6'3" or 4, and he was a big presence out there. And if I got in trouble, I could just dish it over to his side and he would get it out somehow because of his experience. And so, I used to really watch him very carefully at how he played and tried to do things similar. And when I got in trouble, I knew I had him to back me up. And there was a few times where I picked on too many customers that were too big for me, and he bailed me out. And so, that was one guy that I could think of. Dave Lewis, of course, was there for a long time with me too, and he was a very stay-home defenseman. So I learned a lot from Dave too, and but also there's some forwards that I got to mention too. I mean, Dave Taylor, he was just a heart and soul of the Kings for many years, and we put every ounce of effort into his game or whatever, and so you got to admire people like that, and you got to try to, emulate their action or their discipline to the game. So, I could also name other guys too. I mean, Marcel was great, but Marcel was more of the offensive player. So I think he spent more time with the offensive players opposed to me as a defensive player. So, I mean, I certainly enjoyed, Gary Galley was the exact same type of player as King Kong was. If I got in trouble, I knew I was confident I could dish it to him, and he would either dipsy doodle it out or get it out somehow and relieve some pressure. And, Grant Ledger, maybe a little different story. We got in a lot of trouble. I think we ended up leading the league in plus minuses one year at 41 or something. So I can't say Grant was my savior as a partner, but he was a good man. So, but and then I played with Mark Hardy too, and Mark was another good hockey player. He had a lot more offense that people gave him credit for. He in junior hockey, I think he put up some pretty good numbers but he really focused on trying to be a defensive defenseman, and but we worked pretty well together. So there's a lot of people that I watched and was careful, but it wasn't just players on the Kings; it was other people's around the league. And I think the elite players, and I'm not putting myself in an elite category in any way, but I think the elite players really study everybody in the league, and they try to emulate what they're doing. And now with the internet, you can see almost every game. So I think these players nowadays have a great advantage over us back in the day, trying to watch VCRs and and mostly it's just watching the games that we played at home. And but yeah, there was a lot of players elsewhere that I watched too. Brian Trottier, I really admired his style of play and his hard work. And so there was a lot of players that I admired.
How about you, Gary?
It's amazing because when I broke in, and I mentioned that earlier, it was guys like, Jay and Mark Hardy and Brian Engblom that were the guys that kind of, took care of me and helped break me into the league. So I have a ton of respect. Russ Anderson was a guy that when I first came in, I took his job, and he would sit on the plane and play cards with me. He treated me great. I think he stole all my money, but maybe that's what happened with it all. But and Jay used to say to me when my first year, a kid coming out of college, right? And I'm pushing the limits everywhere, and he's like, "Okay, count to three. If I'm not there by three, then you're on your own." And I can tell you, there was only one time I got to three, and he wasn't there, and I got my nose broken, but in Edmonton. But that was the only time I could remember. He was there every single time. Anytime anyone was trying to take advantage of me, Jay would be there. He lived about probably 15 houses down from me in El Segundo, and I'm appreciative that he left his screen door open in the back one night when I was howling through the neighborhood. But that's another story for another time. But it's a different game now than it was then. You used to be able to howl at the moon a little bit, have some fun, some giggles here and there, and now it's different. The game is certainly a lot more money in the game, a little more serious. But you developed a lot of great friendships that I still have. You mentioned Dave Taylor, Jay. Who didn't go through the Kings and not appreciate Dave and what Dave represented as a King? He brought me back the second stint. He was the general manager. He brought me back and gave me an opportunity to come back and play with LA. And, I was so happy to see Dave get his cup in St. Louis there with the Blues. And I was really thrilled for him and Beth and the family. It's a lot of years in hockey he has put in for that. And so certainly, Jimmy Fox is another name that comes, the people that I'm still very close with right now. I still visit and spend time with them every year, him and Susie. And so it's the relationships we build. I was just chatting with Dean Kennedy the other day. I went out to Pincher Creek and spent the week on his ranch, which was incredible. I had a lot of learning there to do. But my first day there, he took my wife and I on a cattle drive up a 2.5-hour cattle drive on a horse. I've only been on a horse 3 times in my life. So Dean wasn't one to give you a break. You're into the farm, you're working on the ranch. So and then my second stint, I had the opportunity, like I said, to meet a whole new set of people there. And like I said, in my relationship with Maddie. Maddie, I don't know if you remember the picture that Rob gave us. We're all coming into a pile after a goal was scored. And I think it's you and me and Sean and Muzz and Stefan Fissé and Rob. We're all in this picture, and I have it in my office. And it's something that every time I glance at it, I get a smile on my face. Some really good people that I had a chance to be with around in LA. It's hard to pick one, but certainly if I had to just narrow it down to one, I'd say probably Jay had the biggest influence on me coming in there. He looked after me quite a bit.
And Matty, I'm going to take a wild guess here. I don't know if he'll be the only person you name, but he might be one of a few you'll name. But you were a defense partner for a number of years with now Hall of Famer Rob Blake.
Yeah, sitting here listening to Jay and Gary's, there's so many players and people that, molded you and helped you and challenged you to become, what you think. You put all that together to hopefully become as a complete player as you can. But if you're one person that, that I would say meant more to me in my whole career, yeah, it is Rob. But the thing with Rob that, looking at closely the way he played the game, that's not, it's the person that I really, admire the way he treated people around him, no matter his own success or Norris trophies or Stanley Cups with Colorado, the way he treated people and always put, team first. That's, what I treasure, what he, showed me, that no matter how much personal success you have, you stay the same. For me, he was always, we used the nickname, call him the farmer, because he was so grounded always. He kept same values and same approach, really professional too, how he prepared for a game. So, yeah, for me, even though there's so many good people I've been around, there's Rob stands out for sure.
I know that it's funny because the reason why Matty was playing with Rob all those years, because Matty was built like a piece of steel. And Rob would have just obliterated any other partner that they would have put him with these things, and he would come charging at it. Matty was the only one he couldn't dent. So and Matty, how about a guy like Dougie Schmolik? I mean, what a type of glue guy was he for our group back then, right? And he's right about Rob. I mean, Rob is is straight up as they come, and he'll always have your back. And them as a partner, those two as partners, watching them play together was incredible. They were a very good unit as a two-man defense pairing. They knew each other as good as anybody's, and that's why they played such a long time. But I played with Rob just a little bit, and he hit me so hard behind the net one night. He was trying to come around and catch somebody, and he missed him totally. Like, almost took all my equipment off. I mean, it was like, get to the bench. It's not enough just to avoid the other team, Rob, but you got to take it easy on me. But he was a big man who hit hard.
And let's continue for a few more moments on the now of the NHL. The rules have changed. There have been major changes in the way players kind of train for the sport now. We had all of this coming out of the 04-05 lockout. What about the NHL today? Do you like what you see? Just as a fan, is it a better game? I'll start with you, Jay.
Is it a better game? That's such a loaded question, I think it is a better game. It's a faster game, but it's not faster in speed. It's just the gap between the worst player and the best player has closed. And so the puck moves that much quicker. There's still no one skates faster than Mike Gartner. Mike Gartner was a fast player. So everybody had, back in the day, fast players. We had Steve Jensen on our team that could skate like the wind or whatever. But the drop-off from the fast and the skilled players was drastic back in the day. Now everybody can handle the puck. Even your physical, tough defensemen, they can handle a puck and do pretty well, actually do very well. And so the talent's so much better now, and it's got to be from training, it's got to be from video, it's got to be from being able to see more games, and studying that kind of stuff. So So yeah, the game is better. There's no question. Are there some rules that I don't like? Yeah, there's still some rules that I'm not real fond of, but I don't play anymore. So it's not really, there was a rules that I did like when I played, and some of them, that blue line or the red line was a really good thing for me. But now, if I was playing, it would be a hard game for me to play. So because that ice is so wide open, and so that puck moves so fast. So I think the game is evolved into a better game, and where it's going to go from here, I have no idea. Because I would just hate to see 3-on-3 hockey, too much 3-on-3 hockey, because you might as well have 10 players and that's it. And I hate to see players lose their job for the purpose of just speeding the game up. So, and I don't think they're talking about 3-on-3, but there are people that love that 3-on-3 stuff, and especially in the minors and the lower levels, they love playing 3-on-3. That's their summer hockey, shinny. And but like I say, it just would eliminate so many jobs. So I don't know. Like I say, I think the game is definitely has improved.
All right, Matty, thoughts. What do you like about the game today? Maybe are there parts of the game that you wish were like they were 25, 30 years ago when you broke in?
Yeah, there are always some, but that's age that you love. I love so many parts of the game where I broke in that, but also the game is better today, and the individual level is higher. The downside, Jay touched on it, it's all about speed, and we always had speed, but now I think if we look ahead into the future, I would think they start looking not only for speed, but the players that can make that little the difference, and talk a little bit more about instead of north south, east west, because speed, they just can't keep speeding it up, and I don't think that will make it a better product. I think the game, the players, the skill that can they have that ice back of the head that can do the little extra thing. I think those guys will come back a little bit more, and the guys that only have speed will disappear.
But I say one thing though, that the one thing that is different from when we played is your best players, your finesse players, they back check a lot better now than they did back in the day. and they come back and they're blocking shots. Everybody seems to pay the price nowadays to block shots, even your top goal scorers. Where back when we played, there was a lot of guys flamingling and getting out of the way and always late to block the shot, because they didn't want to get hurt. And
including some of our goalies.
Yeah, some of our goalies, definitely. But the game has changed that way too. They're more grittier. You're better players. But the one thing that I always had a beef about, and being a physical player, being a contact player, I don't like having a superstar like whatever Marcel Dion or whoever it is, Wayne Gretzky, whatever, having to fight their own battles. And they're not made to push and shove these guys, and they get hurt. Crosby, he gets hurt when people go after him. And I wish there was a way not to have a fighter just sitting on the bench to go out and take care of business if something gets out of hand, but at least to be able the instigation rule, it just makes it so tough for a player to protect one of your better players, and I don't know how you get around doing it, but our better players are there to put on a show and to draw fans. It's not the tough guy that brings the fans in, although they do bring some in, but we want our better players to stay on the ice and to play. And if they have to fight their battles, then in playoff hockey, some of these guys just get pounded because that's their job. That's what every team does: go after the better players and get them off their game. And I wish there was a way to protect the better players of the league.
Yeah, it's so hard because, and Matty hit a lot of it too, with the game is so north-south now. The Chicago Blackhawks are a prime example, winning all their cups. I mean, the launching of the puck from behind the net into the neutral zone, the tipping of it into the zone, the speed moving up the ice. Like, there's not a lot of fabric. There's not a lot of east-west that we saw in the game the years that we would have played in. A little more design to the game. It's very simplified now. The players are moving so fast up and down the ice that the game is very quick. And the rule changes are a big part of it too. I mean, when I broke in '84, there was no tag up offside. When the puck came over the blue line, you had to backpedal with it into the neutral zone, use your partner, and wait for all the guys to get out of the zone. You couldn't throw it back in or it was offside. And sometimes the face-off would go back down into your end. With no tag-up rule, the red line gone, no ability to hold up in any way, the game has become more dangerous too. When you add speed and you take away some of the ability to protect, the game gets more dangerous, and we saw a large increase in head injuries and things along that nature. So, but I mean, I had the pleasure to cover an All-Star game a few years back, and I was down in the lobby with all the players from the teams who were doing an autograph session. Every player could fit in a European suit. I mean, they are lean, extremely lean. They're built for speed. The way they train, everything they do is to be lean. Like Milan Lucic and guys that are thick, big guys like we were when we played. These guys are dropping 10, 15, 20 pounds coming into a new season to try to be quicker so they can keep up with the speed of the game. So it's definitely made a change, for better or for worse, to be argued till the cows come home. Some nights that I find the game very repetitive and lacking a bit of fabric, but then, the playoffs come and exciting games happen. So not every game is going to be an oil painting, but it's such a fabulous game and it's played at such a high speed. And I agree with the two guys. The game is certainly better skill sets now. The players from top to bottom are outstanding. I mean, these guys are incredible athletes. I wish that we would have had some of the knowledge and science and training when we were doing it back then, and instead of in the gym and for 2-3 hours working out, these guys hone it into Jay was on the farm doing his workout, but he's baling hay and everything. But now everything is just streamlined.
When I broke in, we had a universal weight and a bicycle, and the bicycle was just a clothes rack. No one ever rode the bike, and the gym was just for curls. That was it, because of course curls for the girls in LA. And so yeah, we had no gym and no workout plan whatsoever when I broke in. So, and I like that.
This morning when I was getting ready to come on, right, I was telling my youngest lad that I was going on with Matty and Jay, and of course he remembered Matty because he was hears his name a lot from the second time we were there. But I said, listen, just go on and Google Jay Wells and watch some of the highlights of Jay Wells. And I mentioned, of course, Rory Cava back in your junior days, but Dave Brown, which was a highlight for me. It was a hat trick that night in Philly where Jay and Dave Brown went toe to toe, and I mean there was no letting off. I mean, it was just three incredible bouts, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Pat Quinn bought you a television or something and had it sitting on your doorstep or something. He was so grateful that you stood up there in the spectrum and let loose.
No, that was I think that was Mark Hardy. I think Mark Hardy got a TV for fighting somebody, Tim Kerr or somebody. But
you should have got the whole entertainment.
I ended up with two black eyes. I ended up just with two black eyes. That's all I ended up with.
We weren't allowed to drink in the hotel, right? We weren't allowed to. We had to go somewhere else other than the hotel we were staying in. But that night in Philly, Jay's eyes were quite puffy, and he was sitting in the bar. And I think Pat came into the bar and came right over, which was you didn't see very often. He came right over to see Jay. It was one of the incredible things because I played with Dave later on in Philly, and two of you guys are two peas in a pod the same way. But holy geez, it was. I said to my son, just Google, YouTube that and see, and then I could hear him going, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
That's great stuff. Great stuff. Well, guys, I want to thank you for taking part in this here today. Jay Wells, Kings draft pick in 1979. Garry Galley, 83 was your draft year, right?
Correct.
83. And Matty Norstrom, who came over from the Rangers in that trade in 1996. Thank you all for joining us. Stay healthy, stay well, and hopefully we'll see you all soon.
Great to see all you guys.
Yes,
Take care,
awesome.
all right?
All the best to you and your families.
All right.
And Kings fans, thanks for joining us on this Zoom chat today. We hope to do it more often, and we look forward to seeing you all at a hockey game sooner than later. Have a good day.